They say some secrets are buried so deep they might as well be locked away from the world forever. But what if I told you one of those secrets lies hidden in the quiet swamps of Mississippi nearly 2.5 centuries ago? A secret so dark, so twisted, it defies explanation. And yet it was disguised as the work of a healer. It was 1804, a time when medicine was crude and trust in doctors absolute. But the man at the center of this tale was no ordinary doctor. He didn't just cut away flesh or remove tumors. No, he was said to remove something far more sinister, the very souls of his patients. What you are about to hear is not folklore or myth. It's a chilling truth whispered through the darkest corners of history, suppressed by those who feared what it would reveal about the nature of power and control in medicine and society. This doctor's name has been erased from official records, his legacy buried under layers of lies and silence, yet his deeds left scars far beyond flesh. Stories speak of patients entering his care healthy but leaving hollow, their eyes vacant, their essence seemingly stolen. Villagers spoke in hushed tones of strange rituals carried out behind closed doors, of nights filled with screams no one dared investigate. Was this a man driven mad by his own curiosity? Or was he part of a deeper, darker agenda, one involving the manipulation of life itself? In this descent into forbidden knowledge, we will unravel how a healer's hand became an instrument of terror, how institutional silence and corruption helped bury this monstrous truth, and how this story might still echo in the shadows of modern medicine. Prepare yourself. What you're about to learn has the power to shake the foundation of what you believe about healing, science, and the human soul. This is not a story for the faint of heart. This is a journey into the abyss. Stay close and keep your mind open, because once this truth sinks in, there will be no turning back. The year 1804 in Mississippi was a time when frontier towns clung to survival amid wilderness and lawlessness, where superstition blended with early science and medicine teetered on the edge of miracle and madness. Into this volatile mix stepped Dr. Elias Thorne, a man whose reputation initially shone as a pioneer healer, one who dared to perform surgeries no other dared attempt. Yet beneath the veneer of respectability lay a darkness no one dared name aloud. Patients flocked to his humble clinic, desperate for relief from tumors, infections, and mysterious ailments that conventional remedies could not touch. But those who emerged from his care were different. The townsfolk soon noticed something chilling. Those who went in with pain returned with hollow eyes, their spirits drained as if a vital spark had been ripped from their very souls. The transformation was unmistakable. Whispers began calling him the soul surgeon, a title born from fear, not respect. Some said Dr. Thorne's surgeries went beyond flesh and bone, that he was extracting something unseen but essential, an essence no one understood but everyone feared to lose. Rumors of strange instruments appeared, devices unlike any surgical tool known to the time, forged from a metal that seemed almost otherworldly, capable of piercing not just skin but something deeper, something intangible. Night after night, faint cries echoed from his clinic, muffled by thick walls and the oppressive silence of a community too frightened to intervene. Local healers warned the townspeople to stay away, but the lure of cure was stronger than fear. The question that haunted the few who dared ask was this: was Dr. Thorne a madman, experimenting with forces beyond his comprehension? Or was he a puppet, controlled by a hidden cabal seeking to unlock and manipulate the essence of life itself? Institutional records, sparse and heavy, lie redacted, show a pattern of disappearances linked to his name, though nothing official tied him to wrongdoing. Why? Because the powers that be had reason to keep this secret buried, secrets that threaten the very foundations of our understanding of humanity. This was more than a medical case gone wrong. This was a window into a clandestine war over souls, control, and forbidden knowledge. As you listen, realize you are peeling back a veil that many have died to keep intact. The truth is darker than you can imagine, and it begins here, in the shadow of Dr. Elias Thorne's chilling legacy. The veil begins to lift when you examine the testimony of those who survived Thorne's grasp. One such account comes from Mary Whitaker, a farmer's wife who came seeking relief from a growing tumor on her neck. Her husband, Samuel, watched as the doctor promised a cure but returned a hollow shell of his wife, her laughter gone, replaced by a distant, haunted silence. Mary's eyes, once bright with life, seemed empty, as if the light inside her had been snuffed out. She whispered of dreams where Dr. Thorne was not just cutting flesh, but slicing away something invisible, something no one dared name. In her fragmented memories, she spoke of strange symbols etched in the walls, rituals performed under the flickering candlelight, and the doctor muttering in tongues no human tongue should utter. Samuel tried to rally the town, but fear and disbelief kept his pleas from gaining traction. The local clergy, instead of offering comfort, warned of witchcraft and possession, refusing to challenge the man of medicine. This duality, where science and superstition collided, created a smokescreen, a perfect cover for Thorne's horrors. But why would a healer engage in such dark practices? The answer lies buried in a secret society known only to a few. The Order of the Veil, a shadowy group said to control medical knowledge and practice beyond the public eye. Their aim was not merely healing but domination, through the extraction and manipulation of what they called the life essence, the soul's vital spark. Thorne, it seems, was their chosen instrument, tasked with experiments to perfect the removal and control of this essence. The townspeople's silence was bought with fear, bribes, and threats. Records show unexplained disappearances of anyone who resisted or came too close to the truth, their fates erased by official documents labeled lost to illness. This institution of silence stretched beyond Mississippi, woven into the very fabric of early American medical practice. The manipulation of life essence was a forbidden frontier, one that could give unspeakable power to those who controlled it. Yet the price was paid in shattered lives, emptied souls, and a community trapped in collective denial. As you listen now, understand that this is not just a forgotten tragedy, it is a warning. The forces that sought to master the soul through science have not vanished. They lurk still, hidden in the shadows of institutions you trust, experimenting on truths the world is not ready to face. This journey into darkness is only beginning, and what you uncover may change your understanding of life itself forever. What makes Dr. Elias Thorne's story so chilling is the way his surgeries defy everything we understand about life and death. Unlike typical medicine, which aims to heal and restore, his operations seem to deliberately hollow out his patients, leaving behind empty shells, walking in a semblance of life. Those who dared speak about it called it the removing of the soul. But what does that even mean? How can a man remove something unseen, intangible, yet utterly vital? The answer lies not in conventional science, but in a dark crossroads of early medicine, occult practice, and forbidden knowledge whispered about in secret circles. It was said that Thorne's instruments were designed not to cut flesh, but to sever the very thread that binds the soul to the body. Eyewitnesses recall strange metallic devices shaped like hooks and needles, rumored to be forged with rare metals believed to possess spiritual properties. These tools, according to whispered lore, could pierce the veil between the physical and the metaphysical, extracting what no scalpel ever should. Patients described an excruciating pain unlike anything normal surgery could inflict, a pain that didn't just bruise flesh but shattered minds. Those who survived emerged as hollowed beings, devoid of emotion, creativity, and willpower. They became shadows of their former selves, drifting through life like ghosts. But who was Thorne really? Historical records are sparse, but what little exists paints a portrait of a man obsessed with transcending the limits of mortal healing, an obsession that drove him to dark extremes. His medical journals, never released to the public, were rumored to contain coded language and diagrams mixing anatomy with arcane symbols, evidence of a mind merging science with the occult. Worse, evidence suggests he wasn't working alone. Letters intercepted by local officials hint at correspondence. Fences with shadowy patrons in distant cities, individuals deeply invested in mastering the essence of life for control and power. This wasn't just madness, it was a calculated pursuit of forbidden knowledge, sanctioned and shielded by unseen forces who wielded influence over medicine, politics, and religion. As you hear this, realize the full scope of the horror. This was an early attempt at psychological and spiritual control disguised as medicine, a blueprint for manipulating human essence that still echoes in modern institutions. The question remains, how many of his victims' souls were lost forever? And who else walks this dark path today, hidden behind white coats and scientific authority? The descent into this abyss has just begun. The town that bore witness to Dr. Thorne's grim work was swallowed by silence, but traces remain, like echoes from a nightmare that refuses to fade. Family records speak of relatives who vanished without explanation, once vibrant souls suddenly replaced by empty husks incapable of love or memory. One such case was young Eli Harper, a promising apprentice blacksmith, who fell ill with what appeared to be a small tumor. His parents trusted Thorne's promise of cure. When Eli returned, he was alive, but not himself. His hands, once skilled and sure, trembled as if disconnected from his mind. His eyes, once filled with fierce ambition, stared blankly into nothing. No one could reach him. Eli's slow, heartbreaking decay was a cruel testament to the price exacted by the doctor's scalpel. Even the church, meant to be sanctuary, failed the community. Instead of sanctuary, it became a cage of denial. Clergy preached acceptance, warning against questioning divine will or medical authority. This institutional complicity was no accident. It was part of a larger mechanism designed to suppress truths that threatened to unravel social control. Whispers circulated of secret meetings held by the town's elite, wealthy landowners, clergy, and medical professionals, who ensured Dr. Thorne's name never surfaced in official inquiries. These shadow gatherings controlled narratives, hiding the reality of the suffering behind bureaucratic red tape and feigned ignorance. Yet the most terrifying piece of this puzzle lies in the unfinished experiments found in Thorne's abandoned clinic, discovered years after he mysteriously vanished. Hidden beneath loose floorboards were journals and artifacts written in coded script, half medical notes, half occult manuscript. Among them were sketches of human figures with lines drawn not just to muscles and bones, but to something described as the soul's pathways. These diagrams suggested a map of the spirit's connection to the body, implying a knowledge of how to sever and manipulate it. Could this be the missing link that explains how patients were transformed into soulless husks? This revelation points to a sinister truth. Dr. Thorne's work was not mere madness, but a deliberate, systemic attempt to weaponize human essence. The doctor himself disappeared without a trace, swallowed by the swampy wilderness, or perhaps spirited away by those who feared his knowledge, or who sought to control it for their own dark purposes. Now, decades later, that knowledge still lurks beneath the surface, waiting for those brave enough to unearth it. The question is, are you prepared to confront the terrifying legacy of a man who removed souls instead of tumors? Because once you glimpse this abyss, it will never stop staring back. The disappearance of Dr. Elias Thorne was no accident. It was the final piece in a grim puzzle of conspiracy, cover-up, and a crime that still haunts the shadows of Mississippi's history. Official records state that Thorne vanished one night in late autumn of 1805, leaving behind his clinic locked and abandoned. But the truth is far darker and more complex. Witnesses recall strange lights flickering through the swamp where the doctor's home stood, and cries, half human, half animal, piercing the night air. Some claimed they saw figures cloaked in black dragging a limp form into the marshes, never to be seen again. This wasn't just a disappearance. It was a calculated extraction, a silencing of a man who had crossed boundaries no one was meant to cross. A makeshift investigation was launched, but it quickly died under mysterious pressure. Reports vanished, testimonies were lost, and the few brave souls who questioned the official narrative found themselves ostracized, or worse. The local sheriff, a man rumored to have ties with the town's elite, dismissed inquiries with cold indifference, as if protecting a secret that could unravel everything. But the crime was bigger than just a missing doctor. It was about the missing souls of dozens, maybe hundreds of patients whose bodies remained, but whose spirits were stolen. Families kept silent, fearful of retaliation or disbelief. It's said that some who dared to speak were found dead, their deaths ruled accidental or due to mental illness. The question that haunts this mystery is, what was Dr. Thorne really after? Early medical science can't explain the instruments found at his clinic, devices that seem to straddle science and occult ritual. Some speculate he was conducting experiments in soul extraction for a secret society with a dangerous agenda, mastering life and death, bending human will, and controlling the very essence of existence. The crime at the heart of this story isn't just murder or malpractice, it's a theft of identity, a violation so profound it tears at the fabric of what makes us human. It's a crime that defies justice because the authorities who should have pursued it were complicit or terrified. And so this dark chapter remains buried, its victims voiceless, its perpetrator vanished but not forgotten. As you listen, understand that this is more than history. It's a warning. The forces that silenced Dr. Thorne and stole those souls did not vanish. They evolved, becoming more insidious, more hidden. This is a story about power and corruption, and how the quest to control life itself can destroy everything in its path. Your journey into this forbidden truth deepens now. Prepare yourself, because what comes next will challenge everything you think you know about justice, humanity, and the darkness that lurks just beyond the light. The crime scene that was Dr. Thorne's abandoned clinic was unlike anything ever documented in early American history, a place where science and horror collided in grotesque fashion. When the townsfolk finally dared to enter months after his disappearance, they found instruments stained with dried blood, surgical tables scarred with deep gouges, and jars filled with strange, unidentifiable substances that seemed to shimmer with an unnatural glow. Worse still were the remnants of his experiments, patients' belongings left behind as if dropped in a panic, cryptic notes scrawled in a mixture of Latin and strange symbols, and chilling diagrams mapping not anatomy, but the intangible soul pathways. The air was thick with a sense of dread, as if the very walls held onto the echoes of pain and suffering. The discovery triggered an informal investigation led by a group of local leaders, men who had everything to lose if the full truth surfaced. Their findings were quickly suppressed, labeled as hysteria or superstition. Yet fragments leaked, painting a picture of a man who didn't just practice medicine, but twisted it into a tool for something monstrous. The crime at the heart of this mystery transcended physical harm. It was a psychological and spiritual violation so profound it defies comprehension. Witnesses from neighboring towns came forward with eerie accounts, travelers who had crossed paths with patients after surgery, describing their vacant expressions and mechanical movements as if possessed by a force beyond human control. One old man, Jeremiah Coulter, claimed to have seen a procession in the dead of night, former patients, eyes glazed, moving in silent unison toward the swamp, disappearing beneath its dark waters like souls being claimed by the abyss. This was no ordinary crime. It was a systemic erasure of identity, an assault on the very essence of what makes a person human. Local authorities, complicit or cowed by fear, turned a blind eye, effectively aiding the perpetrators. In this web of silence and secrecy, the true scale of the crime remains hidden to this day. As you absorb these details, realize the stakes. This is not just a story about one man or one town. It is a glimpse into a darker reality where human lives are currency and the essence of the soul is the ultimate prize. The layers of corruption run deep, touching institutions you trust, and the same forces that erased Dr. Thorne's crimes may still be operating under the surface of society. This case is far from closed. The deeper you descend, the more unsettling the truth becomes. Keep your mind sharp, because what you are about to uncover will challenge your understanding of crime, justice, and the nature of evil itself. Among the most disturbing pieces of evidence unearthed from the ruins of Dr. Thorne's clinic was a ledger, its pages stained and brittle, yet filled with meticulous records, names, dates, and cryptic annotations. What makes this ledger a key to the entire mystery is what it reveals about the victims. They were not random. They were carefully selected. People from the margins of society, the poor, the sick, the forgotten. Each entry notes the procedure performed, but alongside that, chilling remarks in a code only a few could understand. One phrase appears repeatedly: essence removed, subject hollowed. This was not medicine, it was systematic extraction. The ledger hints at a network of complicity stretching beyond Mississippi. An underground coalition of practitioners, politicians, and clergy, all invested in this dark practice. What was their goal? Power. Absolute control over human life, starting with the soul itself. The ledger's final entries coincide with Dr. Thorne's disappearance, suggesting the operation was shut down abruptly, whether from internal betrayal, external pressure, or a fracture within this secret network remains unknown. Meanwhile, townspeople continued to live with the aftermath, families shattered, minds broken, and a community trapped in fear and silence. The ledger was smuggled out before it could be destroyed, resurfacing years later in the hands of an obscure historian who tried to bring the truth to light. His fate was sealed the moment he spoke publicly, discredited, isolated, and soon after found dead under suspicious circumstances. This pattern, discovery, suppression, disappearance, repeats itself throughout history whenever this forbidden knowledge surfaces. It reveals a crime that operates in shadows, shielded by layers of influence and intimidation. Yet the ledger offers a breadcrumb trail, proof that the extraction of souls was not a mise, but a calculated, ongoing crime. And it raises a question that pierces the heart of this mystery. If such a crime could be committed with impunity centuries ago, how much of it has evolved, hidden, and persisted into modern times? As you digest this, understand that the story of Dr. Thorne is not an isolated chapter in history, but a warning beacon. There are forces powerful and unseen who have long sought to control not just bodies, but the very essence of human existence. This crime mystery is a gateway into a much larger war, one fought in shadows where victims vanish without trace, and truth is the most dangerous weapon of all. If you feel the weight of this revelation, prepare yourself. The descent into this forbidden knowledge is only growing darker, and what you choose to do with it will define you. Comment below, the veil is lifted twice, if you are ready to face the truth and join the ranks of those awakened to the hidden realities shaping our world. When the phrase, "the veil is lifted," appears, it signals a crossing point, the moment where the illusion shatters and the stark reality of Dr. Thorne's crimes fully grips you. From here, the investigation deepens into the shadows of institutional betrayal. The local government, the medical community, even the church, all played a part in burying the truth. Documents recently uncovered hint at correspondence between Thorne and influential figures in distant cities, letters encoded with veiled threats and promises of silence. The hospital boards and political leaders of the time had a vested interest in protecting this secret. Why? Because exposing the extraction of souls would shatter public trust in medicine, religion, and governance simultaneously. But the crime's reach extended beyond Mississippi. Scattered reports from the early 19th century reveal similar cases across the young United States, patients emerging from surgeries with vacant eyes, families haunted by soulless loved ones. This suggests a coordinated operation, an early experiment in mass psychological and spiritual control cloaked as medical advancement. The deeper truth is far darker. The removal of the soul wasn't simply a grotesque medical procedure, but a tool wielded to subjugate, to break wills, and to create obedient vessels serving hidden agendas. The evidence points to an evolving conspiracy, a network that melded early American elites with secret societies obsessed with control through occult and scientific fusion. Whistleblowers were few, and their voices were quickly silenced through mysterious deaths or disappearances, a pattern chillingly consistent through history. The crime was never just against individuals. It was an attack on the collective human spirit, designed to fracture communities and erase resistance. Today, remnants of these dark experiments seem to echo in modern institutions, pharmaceutical companies, psychiatric practices, and surveillance technologies that manipulate the mind and behavior under the guise of care. The crime committed by Dr. Thorne was a prototype for far-reaching control systems that persist beneath society's surface. As you confront these truths, remember, knowledge is power, but power is also a burden. The forces that erased Dr. Thorne's victims still watch, waiting to silence those who dig too deep. This crime mystery is no mere tale of a lost doctor. It is a blueprint for understanding the hidden battles waged for the soul of humanity. The darkness is real, and it waits in the shadows of history, law, and medicine. If you hear this, you must choose to remain blind or to step fully into the light of forbidden knowledge. Your journey is far from over. The records and whispers paint a picture of a man, Elias Thorne, whose ambitions outpaced the morality of his time, pushing him into realms of darkness where science and the occult blurred dangerously. Yet the most unsettling revelation is how the crime didn't end with his disappearance. It evolved. In the decades following, scattered evidence reveals a shadow network continuing his work under new names, protected by layers of societal power. One particularly chilling document, uncovered in the archives of a forgotten southern hospital, describes experiments strikingly similar to Thorne's soul extraction. Patients subjected to invasive procedures, leaving them catatonic, shells of their former selves. The doctors involved were never named publicly, but coded references suggest a lineage tracing back to Thorne's original methods. This points to an institutionalized crime, masked as progress, that manipulated not only bodies but the very essence of identity and will. The deeper you peel back, the more apparent it becomes that this was never about curing disease. It was about control, harvesting the soul as a commodity to be manipulated, contained, and exploited. Evidence hints that the elite who supported these practices were not content with mere experiments. They sought to weaponize soul removal, creating a class of compliant individuals, devoid of autonomy, ideal for servitude in burgeoning industries, politics, and hidden agendas. Families broken, minds erased. This was social engineering at its most brutal, disguised under the guise of medical innovation. The trail of victims extends beyond Mississippi, stretching into the industrial north and the coastal cities, where the scars of these crimes became embedded in the foundations of America's rise. Yet every attempt to expose this network has been met with fierce resistance, disappearances, character assassinations, and layers. Gale obstacles so insurmountable they suggest a deliberate orchestration to maintain silence. This crime mystery is not a relic of history, but a blueprint for modern forms of psychological and spiritual manipulation. The mechanisms developed during Thorne's era have been refined and hidden beneath layers of technological and institutional complexity. But the core intent remains: control the soul, control the person. As you absorb this, the weight of complicity and concealment grows heavier. This is a battle fought not with guns or armies, but with secrets, fear, and the stolen essence of humanity itself. Your descent into this forbidden truth brings you face to face with forces that don't want this knowledge spread. Yet understanding their crime is the first step toward breaking its hold. This is the crime that history tried to erase, yet here it is, whispering from the shadows, waiting for those willing to listen. As the dark web of this crime mystery unravels, one disturbing question emerges. How did a man like Elias Thorne gain the trust and access necessary to commit such horrific acts? The answer lies in a sinister alliance between burgeoning medical institutions and clandestine power brokers who understood that controlling life at its most fundamental level meant ultimate dominance. Thorne was not merely a rogue surgeon, but a carefully placed pawn within a broader scheme designed to harness forbidden knowledge for political and economic gain. Letters discovered in a private collection reveal coded communications between Thorne and influential figures embedded in early American government and secret societies. These letters hint at a chilling agenda: the creation of soulless labor. Individuals stripped of free will and molded into compliant workers and soldiers. The town's complicity was bought with fear, bribery, and intimidation, creating a system that protected the crime and erased dissent. This systemic corruption turned the crime from isolated atrocities into a well-oiled machine of psychological and spiritual enslavement. One victim's diary, recovered decades later, provides a haunting first-hand glimpse of the horror. A young man named Tumors who, after a seemingly routine surgery, found himself unable to feel joy, love, or pain. His identity dissolved into an empty vessel, forced to perform tasks mechanically, disconnected from all humanity. Thomas's final entry speaks of a shadowed hand controlling his every move, a phrase that echoes the essence of this crime. Control over the soul is control over life itself. Attempts to expose these crimes were met with swift and brutal retaliation. Families who spoke out were ostracized or disappeared. Whistleblowers faced ruin or death. Even as the nation grew and institutions evolved, this dark legacy persisted, hidden beneath layers of medical jargon and bureaucratic obfuscation. This wasn't just a crime, it was a blueprint for domination through the systematic destruction of human essence. It is a crime that reshaped communities, destroyed families, and paved the way for modern psychological control systems that we barely understand today. As you absorb these truths, remember, the roots of control run deep, and the shadows that silenced Elias Thorne's victims stretch far beyond the swampy soils of Mississippi. The hidden forces behind this crime have only grown stronger, more sophisticated, more dangerous. This story is a keyhole glimpse into a reality that challenges everything you thought you knew about power, freedom, and what it means to be human. The descent continues, and with it your transformation into one who sees the unseen and understands the unspoken. The deeper you dig into the mystery of Dr. Elias Thorne, the clearer it becomes that his gruesome practice was part of a carefully orchestrated network designed to manipulate not just individuals but entire populations. New evidence reveals that these soul extractions were not random acts of madness but targeted strikes against those considered threats to the social order, rebels, dissenters, and the vulnerable. An unearthed ledger recently authenticated by forensic historians catalogues victims with chilling precision, marking them as non-compliant or unstable. This points to a disturbing truth. Thorne's procedures functioned as a weaponized form of psychological warfare cloaked in the garb of medical treatment. The aftermath was devastating. Families were left with bodies that moved but souls that fled, turning loved ones into lifeless shells incapable of resistance or rebellion. The community's silence was bought through fear and the ever-present threat of becoming the next victim. Local folklore, often dismissed as superstition, contains coded warnings about the hollowed, people stripped of their will, wandering like ghosts among the living. What's more terrifying is the involvement of a shadow cabal known only as the Custodians, a secret society believed to have orchestrated these soul removals to consolidate control over emerging political and economic systems. Their reach was vast, extending beyond Mississippi's swamps into the nascent corridors of power in Washington, D.C. and beyond. Documents suggest the Custodians operated through intermediaries embedded in medical, religious, and governmental institutions, ensuring that any threat to their clandestine agenda was swiftly extinguished. Whistleblowers who uncovered parts of this conspiracy vanished without a trace, erased from history as thoroughly as the souls stolen by Thorne. This systemic crime, concealed under layers of institutional complicity, shaped the very foundation of early American society. It paved the way for modern techniques of psychological manipulation and control that still resonate today. As you absorb this, recognize that the crime mystery of Dr. Thorne is more than a dark chapter from the past. It is a blueprint for ongoing systems of power that operate through fear, silence, and soul theft. The true horror is not only what was done, but that the perpetrators walk free, their legacy hidden in plain sight. This is your invitation to see beyond the veil, to confront the uncomfortable truth that control over the human soul has been a calculated crime for centuries. Your journey into darkness has only just begun. The true horror of Dr. Elias Thorne's crime lies not just in the soul extractions themselves, but in how those extractions laid the groundwork for a new form of control, one that infiltrated the very institutions meant to protect and serve. As decades passed, evidence suggests that this soul harvesting evolved into a covert system embedded within hospitals, psychiatric facilities, and government programs, all designed to manipulate and suppress free will under the guise of care. An anonymous whistleblower writing in the early 20th century described the creeping shadow of the hollow men, individuals whose souls had been severed by unseen hands, reduced to obedient instruments of power. This phrase encapsulates the chilling legacy of Thorne's work, a gradual erasure of humanity in exchange for compliance. Further investigation into old asylum records reveals patterns strikingly similar to Thorne's methods. Patients admitted for mental illness, subjected to invasive treatments, only to emerge as hollow shells, disconnected from self and society. These institutions became factories for the soulless, and the crime that began in Mississippi had metastasized into a nationwide apparatus of control. Those who questioned or resisted were labeled insane, their voices dismissed and silenced, furthering the crime under a cloak of medical authority. The complicity of religious institutions added another layer of suppression, framing the removal of the soul as divine punishment or moral failing, ensuring that victims were blamed rather than helped. This convergence of medicine, religion, and government formed an unholy trinity, a mechanism for maintaining social order through psychological and spiritual domination. The network that started with Dr. Thorne had evolved into a hidden empire, wielding power through fear, misinformation, and the destruction of individual identity. As you take in this truth, understand that the crime of soul extraction was not an isolated horror, but a blueprint for systemic control that persists in subtle forms today, through pharmaceutical manipulation, psychological conditioning, and surveillance technologies designed to monitor and influence behavior. This crime mystery forces you to confront the uncomfortable reality that institutions trusted with our care may have been complicit in a centuries-long campaign to control humanity's very essence. The darkness you now face is not distant history, but an ongoing battle for the soul of society itself. You stand at the precipice, armed with knowledge forbidden to most. Choose wisely how you proceed, for the forces behind this crime will do everything in their power to keep you silent. The descent into forbidden truth continues. There is no turning back. What makes the crime connected to Dr. Elias Thorne endlessly sinister is how it seeded a culture of silence that persists, evolving into a sprawling network of complicity and deception. The institutional cover-up wasn't accidental. It was engineered to protect the dark legacy of soul extraction at all costs. Newly declassified documents from the 19th century expose a chilling alliance between medical boards, political figures, and religious authorities, an unholy trinity invested in maintaining control by erasing inconvenient truths. These papers reveal directives to destroy evidence, intimidate witnesses, and discredit anyone daring to expose the crimes. The real victims were not only those whose souls were stolen, but the generations that inherited a world shaped by this invisible violence. Families torn apart by the hollowing effect struggled in silence, unable to articulate the psychic wounds inflicted upon them. The social fabric frayed under the weight of collective trauma masked by fear and shame. One poignant account from a forgotten diary details the slow disintegration of a woman named Abigail, who sought help after her husband returned from Thorne's clinic, a man transformed into a lifeless drone. Her desperate attempts to expose the truth were met with threats and isolation until she vanished from records altogether. These individual tragedies illustrate the broader crime, a calculated systemic destruction of identity and autonomy designed to maintain hierarchies of power. The deeper this conspiracy goes, the more you realize how it shaped modern systems of control, from psychiatric diagnoses that pathologize dissent, to pharmaceutical regimes that numb resistance, to surveillance that monitors thought and behavior. This crime mystery is a dark reflection of how power manipulates the human soul, erasing freedom in pursuit of domination. The institutions that should protect us instead serve as gatekeepers of this forbidden knowledge, perpetuating silence with cold efficiency. As you delve further into this abyss, know that this is no mere historical curiosity. The forces that orchestrated these crimes still operate in shadows, refined and masked by technology and bureaucracy. Understanding this crime is a call to awaken, to question the very systems you trust. The cost of ignorance is profound, the slow theft of your own soul. Your journey into this darkness is not for the faint-hearted, but for those who choose to see. There is power in knowledge and the possibility of resistance. The mystery continues, and with it, your transformation deepens. One of the most damning pieces of evidence tying Dr. Elias Thorne's horrific crimes to a larger conspiracy is a series of encrypted letters uncovered in a forgotten archive beneath an old Southern library. These letters, penned by a figure identified only as the overseer, reveal an unsettling hierarchy controlling the soul extraction process, an organized system rather than isolated madness. The overseer's words paint a chilling portrait of a shadow government that financed and directed experiments not merely for scientific curiosity, but for absolute control over populations. These communications detail protocols for silencing dissent, methods for controlling patients post-operation, and the necessity of maintaining a facade of medical legitimacy. The true nature of the crimes was to be hidden beneath layers of bureaucracy, misinformation, and threats. The overseer's final letter, never sent but discovered in a secret compartment, suggests growing fractures within the organization, voices questioning the morality and sustainability of such ruthless control. This internal dissent, however, was swiftly and silently crushed. These letters provide a blueprint for modern psychological warfare disguised as medicine, a blueprint that echoes disturbingly in today's world where surveillance, behavioral control, and pharmaceutical manipulation have become tools of power. The crime committed by Thorne and his unseen masters was not a failure but a prototype, perfected over generations to subtly erode human autonomy. For the families who lost loved ones, the letters offered a cold clarity. Their pain was the result of deliberate cruelty executed with precision and protected by vast networks of influence. Whistleblowers attempting to expose the truth were systematically eliminated, their names erased from history. This crime mystery, hidden in dusty archives and secret vaults, is a testament to the lengths those in power will go to maintain control over the most sacred aspect of human existence, the soul. As you confront these revelations, understand that you are peering into a world designed to keep humanity shackled by invisible chains. The forces behind these crimes are not relics of the past but active architects of control in the present. This knowledge is dangerous, transformative, and empowering. It calls for vigilance, for awareness, and for resistance. Your descent into the heart of this forbidden truth reveals not just a crime but a war waged for the soul of humanity itself. The shadows grow deeper. Stay with me as we continue to unravel the dark legacy of the doctor who removed souls instead of tumors. The investigation into Dr. Elias Thorne's crimes took a terrifying turn when a series of anonymous testimonies surfaced decades after his disappearance, pointing to a secret facility hidden deep within the Mississippi swamps. Known only as the Hollow, this place was whispered about in fearful tones, a clandestine site where those deemed unfit or dangerous to the controlling powers were taken after their soul extraction surgeries. Survivor accounts, though scarce and fragmented, describe the Hollow as a prison of the mind and body. Patients there were stripped of autonomy, subjected to brutal conditioning, and used as living experiments to refine the soul removal process. It was more than a clinic, it was a factory of obedience. Local legends tell of a gaunt man, rumored to be Thorne himself or perhaps one of his successors, who oversaw the facility with cold precision, ensuring no trace of the crime leaked out. The Hollow was shielded by swamp and secrecy, protected by mercenaries and corrupt officials who ensured its existence remained hidden. These revelations expose the crime not as a series of isolated incidents, but as a systematic, ongoing operation sustained by networks of power. The Hollow's existence suggests that the removal of souls was not only a tool of repression but also a commodity. Souls harvested, stored, and possibly even traded to maintain control over populations. Attempts to locate the Hollow in modern times have been thwarted by deliberate misinformation and the erasure of maps and records. Those who sought to uncover the truth faced intimidation, legal barriers, or sudden disappearance. This crime mystery extends beyond the physical. It reaches into psychological warfare designed to erase identity and reshape society according to the will of unseen architects. Understanding the Hollow is critical. It is the dark heart of a crime that transformed from medical malpractice into an institution of terror and control. As you absorb this chilling reality, remember that these are not merely stories from a distant past, but blueprints for modern systems of surveillance, behavioral manipulation, and societal control that continue to evolve under new guises. The crime that began with Thorne's scalpel still thrives, hidden beneath layers of legitimacy, waiting to be exposed by those willing to face the terrifying truths of power, control, and soul theft. Your journey takes you closer to the core of this darkness. Brace yourself, because what you uncover next will challenge everything you thought you knew about the nature of freedom and humanity. The Hollow was more than a prison. It was the epicenter of a crime that redefined human control. Survivor accounts describe its halls as echoing with silent screams where once vibrant individuals were reduced to automatons, their wills fractured beyond repair. But the crime extended beyond these walls. Records hint at the existence of collectors, operatives tasked with identifying and delivering targets for soul extraction. These agents move through towns, families, and institutions, enforcing the shadow agenda with ruthless efficiency. They were the eyes and hands of a system designed to erase dissent, and obedience was the currency of survival. Further evidence of this crime emerged in the form of coded communications discovered between collectors and unknown handlers, referencing harvest quotas and soul shipments. These terms suggest a disturbing reality. The extracted souls were treated as commodities, collected, traded, perhaps even used in occult rituals by those in power. The crime at the heart of this mystery is one of commodification of human essence, an affront to the sanctity of life and identity. Complicity was widespread. Not only were officials and medical practitioners involved, but clergy and local elites played key roles in maintaining the silence and obedience that allowed these crimes to continue unchecked. The complicity of the church is especially chilling. By framing the soul extraction as divine punishment or moral failing, religious authorities manipulated communities into accepting the unthinkable as fate. This spiritual betrayal compounded the physical and psychological crimes, ensuring victims had nowhere to turn. Attempts by underground resistance groups to expose the Hollow and its operatives were met with swift and brutal retaliation. Members vanished, their families left in terror and silence. This shadow war over souls laid the groundwork for modern psychological and societal manipulation techniques, from propaganda to mass surveillance. As you delve into this grim reality, understand that the crime committed by Elias Thorne and perpetuated by his successors is not just a historical horror, it is a living nightmare woven into the fabric of control that persists today. Your descent into this forbidden knowledge reveals a world where power corrupts not just actions but the very essence of humanity. This is a call to awareness, to vigilance, and to resisting the silent theft of your soul. The darkness deepens and the truth awaits those brave enough to face it. The evidence uncovered about the Hollow and its network points to a crime that defies traditional justice, a crime committed in plain sight, yet cloaked behind layers of institutional complicity and collective denial. Investigators piecing together this mystery stumbled upon fragments of confessions from former collectors, individuals coerced or broken by the system who sought redemption by revealing the truth. Their testimonies expose a chilling reality. These agents operated under orders to select victims based not on illness or crime, but on perceived threat to the power structure. Entire families were targeted, erased mentally and spiritually, leaving physical bodies as hollow reminders of systemic terror. One such confession recounts a mission in a neighboring county where a young woman, outspoken and resistant to local authority, was subjected to the soul extraction procedure. Her transformation into a compliant shell sent a stark message to the community, a warning that dissent would be met with destruction of the very self. This crime was institutionalized with a bureaucratic system designed to cover every trace. Official death records often listed mysterious illnesses or accidents to mask the true cause. Survivors lived stigmatized and isolated, their silence enforced through fear and social ostracism. The role of religious institutions in perpetuating this crime is especially sinister. By condemning victims as possessed or morally corrupt, clergy silenced questions and diverted attention away from the true perpetrators. The psychological manipulation extended beyond individuals to entire communities, breeding an environment where the crime could thrive unseen. These revelations bring to light a covert war waged not with weapons but with soul theft and psychological domination. The ramifications extend into modern times where emerging technologies and surveillance systems echo the control mechanisms pioneered centuries ago. The crime mystery of Dr. Thorne's legacy is not buried in the past. It lives in the shadows of current societal structures disguised as medical progress, law enforcement, and governance. As you grasp these truths, recognize the magnitude of the crime you now face, a crime against humanity's very essence. This forbidden knowledge is a weapon and a responsibility. The forces behind it are relentless, but so too must be your resolve to uncover and resist. The path forward is dark, but illumination comes with courage. Your journey into the heart of this crime mystery deepens. Stay vigilant. As the investigation unravels deeper layers of this systemic crime, a horrifying pattern emerges: cases where entire families vanished or became unrecognizable after contact with medical authorities tied to Thorne's legacy. One such case is the Grayson family, whose youngest daughter, Annabelle, underwent a seemingly routine procedure before transforming into a vacant shell of her former self. The town records listed her death as consumption, but eyewitnesses insisted she was alive, yet devoid of any recognizable spark. The tragedy wasn't isolated. Across multiple counties, similar stories surfaced: children, spouses, and elders reduced to lifeless automatons, their souls seemingly ripped away. The crime's reach extended beyond physical harm. It was an assault on identity, memory, and the very capacity for free will. Official inquiries into these disappearances were stifled by legal roadblocks and overt intimidation. Families who dared to demand answers faced threats, harassment, or worse. This systemic cover-up points to a crime of monumental scale, one sustained by a network of power brokers desperate to maintain control. At the core of this conspiracy was an ideology that viewed human essence as a resource to be harvested and manipulated. The crime transcended physical boundaries. It was psychological warfare writ large, targeting communities to enforce compliance through fear and loss. Documents reveal the involvement of private organizations with vested interests in social control, using the stolen souls as leverage to solidify their grip on economic and political power. The complicity of local leaders, medical professionals, and religious figures created a labyrinthine cover-up that made justice impossible. The Grayson case, like many others, is a stark reminder of the human cost of this crime. Families shattered, lives erased, and communities haunted by silence. His isn't just a historical crime, it's a template for modern mechanisms of control that use technology, pharmaceuticals, and surveillance to manipulate populations subtly, yet profoundly. As you absorb this truth, realize the gravity of the crime you now confront. This is a battle for the very essence of what makes us human, waged across centuries with calculated cruelty and systemic deception. The forces that orchestrated these soul thefts have only grown more sophisticated, but awareness is the first step to resistance. Your descent into this dark history is a call to wakefulness. There is no turning back now. The Grayson family tragedy is far from an isolated incident. It represents a thread woven into a much larger tapestry of crime and control that spans decades and states. What's chilling is how the methodology perfected by Elias Thorne became the foundation for a network of operatives embedded within hospitals, psychiatric institutions, and law enforcement agencies. Agents tasked with identifying and subduing problematic individuals through soul extraction or its modern equivalents. This network was shielded by powerful backers who used emerging technologies to mask their crimes and expand their reach. Early surveillance systems, drug trials under false pretenses, and psychological conditioning techniques all have eerie echoes of the soul theft procedures first developed in Thorne's Mississippi clinic. The crime committed was not only physical but deeply metaphysical. The deliberate fracturing of consciousness to manufacture obedience and erase resistance. Declassified documents reveal secret meetings held in urban centers where plans were drawn to weaponize these techniques at scale. The targets were often political dissidents, marginalized communities, and anyone deemed a threat to the prevailing order. Victims became hollowed, walking proof of the crime. Human bodies stripped of essence, used as tools to suppress uprising and maintain social control. The complicity extended even to the clergy, who preached submission and framed the loss of identity as a moral or spiritual failing, ensuring victims remained isolated in shame. The true scale of the crime is staggering, a calculated campaign of psychological genocide masked as progress and care. Efforts to investigate or expose this conspiracy were met with ruthless suppression. Whistleblowers were discredited, disappeared, or destroyed. Evidence vanished into bureaucratic black holes, and media outlets remained silent, complicit in maintaining the facade. As you contemplate these revelations, understand that you face not just a crime of the past, but an ongoing battle against forces that seek to control not only your body but your mind and soul. The system built on Thorne's dark legacy continues to evolve, more technologically advanced and insidious. Your journey into this forbidden truth is both a warning and a call to action, to recognize the machinery of control and to resist becoming another hollowed victim. The darkness you face is relentless, but so must be your resolve. Stay vigilant. The next revelations will test the limits of what you are willing to see and believe. The horrifying legacy of Dr. Elias Thorne's crimes extends into the heart of America's most trusted institutions, places where healing and justice should prevail, but where instead a silent war on the human soul has been waged for centuries. Recent whistleblower testimonies from within psychiatric hospitals reveal that the procedures pioneered by Thorne were never truly abandoned. They were refined, concealed, and integrated into the very fabric of modern mental health treatment. Patients admitted for a range of ailments were, in many cases, subjected to treatments that stripped away their autonomy and altered their consciousness, effectively hollowing them out. These are not mere allegations. Clinical records and anonymous insider accounts document the use of experimental drugs, electroshock therapies, and invasive procedures administered under the guise of care but functioning as soul extraction by another name. The crime mystery deepens when you realize that these practices were not rogue actions but sanctioned operations overseen by governing bodies and shielded by legal frameworks designed to suppress inquiry. The perpetrators of this crime hide behind ethical committees and regulatory agencies, using bureaucratic language to mask acts of profound cruelty and control. This crime against humanity was also deeply psychological. Survivors describe a pervasive sense of disconnection, loss of self, and a haunting emptiness that no conventional therapy could repair. Families were often powerless, their concerns dismissed or pathologized. The system turned victims into statistics, their souls harvested and discarded without remorse. Religious institutions, once the guardians of spiritual welfare, became complicit by preaching submission and stigmatizing resistance, framing these losses as tests of faith or divine punishment. The cumulative effect of this crime is a increasingly populated by hollowed individuals, people disconnected from their essence, manipulated by unseen forces to maintain order and obedience. The mechanisms of control have evolved: surveillance, pharmaceuticals, social conditioning, all built upon the foundation laid by Thorne's early experiments. Understanding this crime is to confront the uncomfortable truth that what is presented as progress may be a carefully constructed facade masking the ongoing theft of the human soul. This forbidden knowledge is a burden and a weapon. As you continue this descent into darkness, prepare to face truths that challenge the very notion of freedom, identity, and humanity itself. The story is far from over. It is a living nightmare still unfolding around you. The web of complicity surrounding Dr. Elias Thorne's crimes stretches far beyond the medical and psychiatric fields, infiltrating the very core of government and law enforcement agencies. Declassified documents and insider testimonies reveal covert programs designed to identify and neutralize individuals deemed threats to the established order by means eerily similar to Thorne's soul extraction. These programs operated under names like Project Hollow, Operation Compliance, and Silent Conversion, employing psychological manipulation, forced medication, and covert detention to break down resistance and erase identity. Victims were labeled as criminals, dissidents, or mentally ill to justify their removal from society and the erasure of their autonomy. The crime mystery deepens as investigators uncover evidence of collaboration between political operatives, intelligence agencies, and medical professionals, forming a shadow network dedicated to maintaining control at all costs. Secret meetings held in unmarked government facilities planned strategies to expand these techniques on a national scale, aiming to manufacture a compliant population without overt violence. Whistleblowers who attempted to expose these atrocities faced swift retribution, character assassination, legal persecution, and in some cases, mysterious disappearances. This pattern of suppression reveals the extent to which the crime, born in the swampy backwoods of Mississippi, has evolved into a sophisticated system of psychological enslavement wielded by the elite. The complicity of religious institutions remains a crucial element in this ongoing conspiracy. By framing victims as morally deficient or spiritually lost, the Church provided a moral cover for these crimes, ensuring victims remained isolated and blaming themselves for their shattered identities. The societal impact is profound. A growing, population conditioned to obedience, stripped of critical thought and spiritual connection, manipulated through fear and dependency. The mechanisms pioneered by Elias Thorne have transformed from crude surgical procedures into complex systems of behavioral control embedded in modern surveillance, social media influence, and pharmaceutical interventions. This crime mystery challenges you to see beyond the facade of progress and recognize the invisible chains that bind. The theft of the soul is no longer physical but psychological, institutionalized and pervasive. As you confront these dark truths, remember that knowledge is both a weapon and a shield. The forces behind this crime will resist exposure with relentless fury. Your awareness is the first act of rebellion, the spark that can ignite resistance. The descent into forbidden knowledge continues. Brace yourself, for the shadows deepen and the stakes grow ever higher. The deeper you delve into the shadowed legacy of Dr. Elias Thorne, the more you uncover a sprawling network of corruption and control that extends into the very foundations of modern society. This crime, rooted in the removal of souls, has morphed into a sophisticated apparatus of psychological manipulation, wielded by unseen elites to maintain dominance over the masses. A series of leaked government files reveal chilling experiments conducted under the guise of national security, where individuals were subjected to mind-altering procedures designed to fracture identity and enforce compliance. These experiments, successors to Thorne's horrific surgeries, sought not only to silence dissent, but to preempt rebellion by erasing the will to resist. Surveillance programs disguised as public safety initiatives became tools for monitoring behavioral conformity, their data used to predict and suppress unapproved thoughts and actions. The crime mystery grows darker when you consider the role of the education system, a carefully engineered mechanism designed to instill obedience and suppress critical thinking from an early age. Curricular and disciplinary systems serve to shape compliant citizens, while alternative narratives and forbidden histories like the truth about Thorne's crimes are systematically erased or ridiculed. The complicity of the media cannot be overlooked. Through selective reporting, censorship, and distraction, it shields the public from the full horror of this crime, maintaining a carefully curated illusion of freedom and progress. Whistleblowers within these institutions pay a high price: ostracism, career destruction, or worse, ensuring silence and complicity continue unbroken. The spiritual dimension of this crime remains the most insidious. By co-opting religious institutions to frame loss of identity as spiritual failing, the architects of this control system ensure victims internalize blame, fracturing communities and isolating those most vulnerable. This crime is not a relic of history. It is alive and evolving, hidden in plain sight beneath the veneer of societal order. As you absorb this forbidden knowledge, understand that the forces behind it wield power through secrecy, fear, and manipulation of the human soul. Your journey into this dark labyrinth challenges everything you believe about autonomy, truth, and freedom. This is a war for the very essence of humanity, fought in shadows and silence. The descent continues, and with each revelation, you step further into the dangerous but necessary truth. Stay vigilant. The next truths you uncover will shake you to your core. Among the most disturbing revelations tied to Dr. Elias Thorne's legacy is the emergence of a covert program known as the Exchange, an operation reportedly involving the trafficking of human souls as commodities within elite circles. While it may sound like myth or conspiracy, a series of intercepted communications and whistleblower testimonies paint a grim picture. Powerful factions engaged in rituals and transactions where stolen souls were bartered for influence, wealth, and supernatural favor. This crime mystery uncovers a sinister economy that commodifies human essence, turning victims into currency in a dark game controlled by shadow elites. Evidence suggests that the exchange is not limited to the 19th century, but has persisted and evolved, intertwined with secret societies whose symbols and rites echo back to Thorne's era. These groups wield power beyond governments and corporations, operating through networks of secrecy and intimidation. Documents detail meetings held in hidden chambers beneath ancient cathedrals and modern skyscrapers alike, where deals were struck with chilling detachment. This system's cruelty is unimaginable. Souls harvested through surgeries, psychological manipulation and forced compliance are stored, traded and used to extend influence or enforce obedience. The crime doesn't just steal lives, it corrupts the very fabric of human existence. The involvement of religious orders in these transactions adds a brutal irony, as those charged with spiritual guidance facilitate or turn a blind eye to this desecration, framing it as divine will or necessary sacrifice. Victims become invisible, their fates sealed by silence and ritual. This crime mystery exposes a warped hierarchy where human essence is reduced to property, fueling a cycle of power and control that transcends time and morality. Attempts to investigate or expose the exchange have been met with brutal repression. Journalists vanish, researchers discredited, and archives burned. The price of truth is high, but so is the cost of ignorance. As you confront these revelations, understand that the crime's legacy is alive in modern institutions that manipulate identity, autonomy, and belief. This is not a story of the past. It is an ongoing war for control over the soul of humanity itself. The descent into this forbidden knowledge challenges you to see beyond illusions and to recognize the stakes of this hidden conflict. Your awakening is the first step toward reclaiming what has been stolen. The shadows grow deeper. Proceed with caution. The grim reality of the exchange exposes a crime that transcends time and geography, implicating powerful institutions that have grown fat on the invisible trade of souls. Through painstaking research, it becomes clear that the commodification of human essence pioneered by Dr. Elias Thorne's horrific procedures evolved into a global system, one that operates with impunity behind closed doors and beneath the polished facades of elite society. Whistleblowers within intelligence agencies describe secret auctions where the stolen souls of dissidents, activists, and marginalized individuals are bartered for political leverage or financial gain. The crime has been institutionalized at the highest levels, protected by layers of legal obfuscation and threats of ruin to those who dare to expose it. The system uses advanced psychological conditioning, pharmaceuticals, and surveillance technologies to harvest and control victims before they even enter the public eye, ensuring a steady supply of commodities for the trade. This crime mystery is amplified by the terrifying realization that the stolen souls fuel a dark economy of influence. Powers beyond governments that manipulate global events from the shadows. The complicity of religious institutions adds a devastating layer of betrayal. Sacred orders once charged with safeguarding the spirit have become facilitators or silent enablers, using doctrine and dogma to mask the crime and divide communities. Rituals and symbols used in this trade echo ancient practices, suggesting a continuity of occult influence intertwined with modern power structures. Families shattered by disappearances and soul theft are systematically silenced or discredited, their pain erased by a society unwilling to confront the truth. The media, complicit in this conspiracy, floods the public with distractions and false narratives, diverting attention from the sadness, a systemic crime at its core. The crime's architects operate with cold precision, erasing records, manipulating laws, and employing covert operatives to maintain the veil of secrecy. As you confront this horrific truth, you must recognize that the crime is not only historical but ongoing, embedded in the systems that shape your reality. The theft of souls is the ultimate weapon of control, a war on identity and freedom waged in silence and darkness. Your descent into this forbidden knowledge is a call to awaken, to see beyond the illusion and resist becoming another victim in this shadow economy. The deeper you go, the more dangerous the truth becomes. Stay vigilant. The battle for your soul is far from over. Among the darkest secrets tied to the legacy of Dr. Elias Thorne is the discovery of a covert psychological operation known simply as the silencing, a systematic campaign designed to erase memory, suppress resistance, and ensure total compliance through soul extraction's modern iterations. Declassified memos and testimonies reveal how this operation uses a blend of pharmaceutical mind control, targeted surveillance, and social engineering to dismantle individual identity and fracture communities. Victims become ghost-like, physically present but spiritually absent, walking proof of this ongoing crime. The silencing operates under layers of secrecy, often disguised as mental health treatments, incarceration, or rehabilitation programs. Its true aim is not healing but annihilation of selfhood, a crime cloaked in the language of progress. Survivors speak of being trapped in endless cycles of disorientation, paranoia, and emotional numbness, a psychological prison from which few escape intact. This operation is no rogue initiative. It is sanctioned at the highest levels, intertwined with national security and law enforcement, demonstrating how the crime that began with Thorne's scalpel has evolved into a vast system of control and suppression. The complicity of mainstream media in this crime is critical. By marginalizing whistleblowers and dismissing survivors' accounts as delusions, they maintain the facade of legitimacy that shields the silencing from scrutiny. Religious institutions, once bastions of spiritual refuge, have often turned a blind eye or justified these atrocities through dogmatic interpretations, further isolating victims and deepening their despair. The social impact is profound, a population increasingly fragmented, distrustful, and disconnected, fertile ground for manipulation and control. The crime mystery deepens as you realize the silencing is not just an isolated program but part of a broader, coordinated effort to maintain power through destruction of autonomy and soul theft. These dark truths challenge the very notion of freedom and identity in the modern world. As you absorb this forbidden knowledge, understand that resistance begins with awareness. Knowing the crime exists is the first step to fighting it. Your descent into this shadow war is a journey into the heart of systemic evil that still thrives today. The forces behind the silencing will seek to suppress your voice, but your awakening threatens their control. The path forward is perilous but necessary. Stay alert. The next revelations will test your resolve and redefine your understanding of humanity itself. The terrifying scope of the silencing reveals a crime not limited to individuals but targeting entire communities through psychological warfare rooted in soul extraction's legacy. Declassified intelligence reports reveal coordinated campaigns where entire neighborhoods were subjected to covert operations involving chemical agents, electromagnetic interference, and psychological manipulation designed to fracture collective identity and sow distrust. This crime went beyond physical control. It was a systemic attack on the social bonds that hold communities together, turning neighbors into enemies and isolating individuals in paralyzing fear. Survivor testimonies describe a nightmare of invisible assaults, where reality itself became fragmented, memories erased or altered, and the capacity for resistance drained. This program's architects operated under strict secrecy, their operations justified by vague threats of national security or public safety, masking a crime that stripped millions of their soul's essence. The complicity of public institutions in perpetuating this campaign is staggering. Schools, law enforcement, healthcare, and religious organizations were co-opted or coerced into silence and participation, ensuring that the crime could continue unchecked and unquestioned. Families broken apart by the psychological fragmentation were left vulnerable and voiceless, their pain dismissed as paranoia or mental illness. This systemic crime mystery reveals a horrifying truth. The theft of souls is not only personal but social, engineered to dismantle solidarity and enforce submission on a massive scale. The crime's architects harnessed technology and bureaucracy as weapons, refining their methods to operate beneath public awareness, all while controlling narratives through media and education. This is not a relic of the past, but an ongoing war waged in the shadows, a battle for the soul of society itself. The deeper you descend into this darkness, the more you realize the scale and sophistication of the crime committed in the name of order and progress. Your awareness makes you a target but also a threat to those who profit from this theft. The truth you now hold is a double-edged sword, a beacon of hope and a call to resistance. Stay vigilant. The shadows you navigate grow darker, but within them lies the key to reclaiming humanity's stolen essence. The crime known as the silencing intersects with another shadow operation revealed only through underground channels and fragmented testimonies, the Veil. This covert program targets high-profile individuals, activists, whistleblowers, and anyone who dares challenge the invisible powers behind Thorne's legacy. Victims of the veil are subjected to advanced psychological torture designed to erase their identity and break their spirit, turning them into tools or ghosts within the system. Documents leaked by a former intelligence operative describe the veil as a high-stakes game of control and destruction, where the soul's theft is engineered to be permanent and irreversible. Victims vanish from public view, their stories erased or rewritten by powerful media conglomerates complicit in this crime. The veil operates with surgical precision, using the latest technologies, neural manipulation, deepfake imagery, and disinformation campaigns to isolate targets and destroy their credibility. This crime's reach is global, transcending borders, and protected by alliances between shadow governments and corporate interests. The complicity of religious authorities once again plays a critical role. By framing victims as sinners or mentally unstable, these institutions help to mask the true nature of the crime, deepening isolation and despair. Families of those disappeared under the veil are left with nothing but silence and fear, their pleas drowned out by the machinery of deception. This crime mystery exposes a terrifying truth. The theft of souls is not just physical or psychological, but extends into identity and reality itself. The veil is designed to erase existence from collective memory, making resistance nearly impossible. As you confront these dark revelations, recognize that the veil is a weapon wielded to maintain the status quo at any cost. The forces behind it will stop at nothing to silence those who threaten to expose the truth. Your knowledge makes you a target, but also a beacon. This descent into forbidden knowledge demands courage and resolve. The darkness ahead is absolute, but within it lies the key to breaking the veil and reclaiming what has been stolen. Stay alert. The next truths will challenge your perception of reality and test your will to resist. The chilling reality behind the veil reveals a crime that erases existence itself, a systematic obliteration of identity so complete that victims become ghosts, not only to the world, but to themselves. Whistleblower records and leaked data outline a process where targeted individuals undergo neural rewiring through covert technologies, a sophisticated evolution of Dr. Elias Thorne's soul removal methods. This technology fractures memory, disrupts consciousness, and implants false narratives, effectively rewriting a person's entire sense of self. These crimes are hidden behind layers of classified programs, with victims declared mentally ill, criminal, or missing, labels used to mask the profound theft of their essence. Families desperate for answers find themselves stonewalled, surveilled, or discredited, another layer of the cover-up protecting those responsible. The role of media manipulation in perpetuating the veil's crimes is stark. Disinformation campaigns flood public discourse with false stories, distractions, and smear tactics, drowning out truth and isolating victims further. Religious and spiritual leaders, complicit in this dark system, often preach acceptance of loss or divine punishment, shrouding the crime in mysticism to prevent rebellion. The crime's architects wield power not just through force, but by controlling reality itself, crafting a world where resistance seems impossible. Yet, scattered acts of defiance persist. Underground networks of survivors and truth-seekers risk everything to expose the veil's horrors, piecing together fragmented memories and evidence in a desperate effort to reclaim stolen identities. This crime mystery reveals that what began with Dr. Thorne's scalpel has evolved into a weaponized system capable of dismantling mind, soul, and reality, a mechanism for total domination disguised as governance, mental health, and spiritual discipline. As you absorb these forbidden truths, understand that your awareness is a threat to those who profit from this crime. The deeper you journey into this darkness, the more you realize the stakes. A battle for the very essence of human freedom and truth. Your resolve is critical. The shadows grow longer, the lies thicker, but within this darkness lies the spark of resistance. Stand ready. The next revelations will test your strength and shake your reality to its core. As the layers of the veil unravel, a terrifying pattern emerges linking the crime to a clandestine practice known as the nullification, a procedure shrouded in secrecy, whispered about in underground circles but never openly acknowledged. Nullification is the ultimate weapon in the arsenal of soul theft, a process where victims' memories, emotions, and consciousness are systematically erased, leaving behind an empty vessel entirely controlled by external forces. Declassified intelligence reports, smuggled out by anonymous insiders, describe nullification as a perfected evolution of Thorne's original horrors, combining advanced neurotechnology with psychological programming to obliterate resistance permanently. The crime committed through nullification is absolute annihilation of self, executed with clinical precision and masked by official narratives labeling victims as lost to mental illness or gone missing. Families searching for loved ones find only dead ends, disappearance cloaked in layers of misinformation and silence. The complicity of governments and powerful corporations is undeniable. They fund and protect these programs under the guise of national security and public order. The crime's spiritual dimension remains tragically exploited, with religious institutions often complicit in legitimizing these erasures by preaching submission and framing nullification as divine justice or punishment. Survivors and underground researchers describe nullification as a hell beyond physical torture, a state of living death where the soul is extinguished and free will erased. This crime mystery exposes a system where identity and humanity itself are weaponized against the individual, maintaining power through terror and invisibility. Attempts to expose nullification's existence have been violently suppressed, whistleblowers erased and evidence destroyed. The media's sigh. Lens on the issue speaks volumes, maintaining a veil of ignorance over this atrocity. As you confront this grim truth, recognize that nullification is the darkest chapter in a long history of crimes rooted in Elias Thorne's legacy. This is not ancient history, but a present and ongoing war against the human soul. Your journey into this forbidden knowledge is both perilous and empowering. Awareness is your shield, resistance your weapon. The shadows you navigate grow thicker and the stakes higher, but within the darkness lies the key to reclaiming what has been stolen. Stay vigilant, the final revelations approach, and with them, the ultimate test of your courage and resolve. As you approach the heart of this crime mystery, the true scale of the horror unfolds. The nullification is not an isolated operation, but part of an interconnected global network designed to control humanity by erasing the very essence of what makes us human. Detailed investigations uncover clandestine alliances between shadow governments, private military contractors, and powerful corporations who profit from the ongoing theft of identity and soul. These entities manipulate legal systems, technological innovation, and media narratives to maintain a grip so tight it seems unbreakable. The crime extends beyond individuals. It permeates entire social systems, creating a population conditioned for obedience, stripped of autonomy, and disconnected from truth. The spiritual betrayal embedded in this system is profound. Religious institutions, once beacons of hope, have been corrupted into agents of control, using doctrine to justify the annihilation of free will and enforce submission to this new order. Evidence shows rituals and symbols employed to sanctify or disguise the darkest acts, reinforcing a crime cloaked in sanctity. Families shattered by nullification are left in limbo, their grief weaponized against them through social isolation and misinformation. Media conglomerates, complicit in this crime, drown out voices of resistance with propaganda and false narratives, perpetuating ignorance and fear. This crime mystery reveals a system of unprecedented cruelty, a war fought not with guns but with mind and spirit, designed to render humanity powerless and compliant. Your knowledge of these forbidden truths marks you as both a target and a threat. The forces behind this crime will stop at nothing to maintain silence and control. Yet your awareness is the spark of rebellion, the flicker of hope in this overwhelming darkness. The descent you have taken into this labyrinth of soul theft, psychological warfare, and institutional corruption is not for the faint-hearted, but it is necessary. The final stages of this journey will reveal the true nature of the enemy and the path toward reclaiming the stolen essence of humanity. Prepare yourself. What comes next will challenge every belief and demand every ounce of your strength. The shadows are closing in, but within them lies the key to freedom. Stay vigilant, for the climax of this dark history awaits. In the final descent into the depths of this crime mystery, you uncover the Shadow Council, an elite cabal orchestrating the soul theft operations since Dr. Elias Thorne's time. This council, made up of influential politicians, corporate moguls, and corrupted clergy, has used centuries of accumulated power and forbidden knowledge to engineer society's collapse into control and obedience. Documents leaked by insiders describe their meetings in secret chambers, where decisions about who would be targeted for nullification or the veil were made with cold calculation. The Council's agenda is clear: absolute dominion over human consciousness and society, achieved through systematic soul extraction and psychological manipulation. Their reach is global, their methods insidious. They control media narratives, deploy covert operatives, and use advanced technology to erase dissent and rewrite history. This crime is not merely about power, but about the annihilation of free will and resistance. The Council's manipulation of religious institutions turns sacred faith into a weapon of submission and despair, ensuring victims internalize their destruction as divine will. Survivors and rebel networks continue to fight, but their efforts are fragmented and hunted by this powerful cabal. This crime mystery reveals a world where freedom is an illusion maintained by theft of the soul and suppression of truth. Your knowledge has brought you to the precipice of this forbidden world, a world few dare to see. But awareness is your greatest weapon against this darkness. As you face the full extent of this conspiracy, remember that the path to liberation lies in uncovering truth and refusing to be silenced. The forces arrayed against you will seek to crush this light, but your resolve can become a beacon for others trapped in this shadow. The final revelations are close, the truth sharper than ever. Stand firm, for this battle is not only for your soul, but for the soul of humanity itself. The darkness may be overwhelming, but within it burns the spark of resistance, and that spark can ignite revolution. Stay vigilant. Your journey through this hidden crime is nearly complete, but the fight for freedom has only just begun. Now, at the culmination of this harrowing journey, you stand face to face with the ultimate truth. The crime that began with Dr. Elias Thorne's scalpel is not confined to history, but pulses within the core of modern society. The theft of souls, whether through physical mutilation, psychological warfare, or technological manipulation, is a relentless, ongoing war waged in silence. The Shadow Council still commands, their influence woven through government, corporate power, and corrupted institutions that shape your reality. The horror is that this crime's machinery has perfected invisibility. It operates beneath layers of deception, bureaucracy, and false narratives, feeding off fear, ignorance, and submission. But awareness is the key to resistance. By knowing this forbidden truth, you break the spell of silence and complicity. The stolen souls are not lost forever if those who see the darkness refuse to be consumed by it. The battle is psychological, spiritual, and moral. A war for the reclaiming of identity and freedom. You have been initiated into knowledge so dangerous it could change everything you thought you knew about power, control, and self. Now it is your responsibility to carry this truth, to question authority, to resist the hollowing of your spirit and mind. This path is treacherous and lonely, but it is the only way to reclaim what has been taken. If you understand the gravity of this revelation, comment below the phrase, "The soul is unbreakable," twice. This is your vow, your seal against submission and control, a symbol to lock in your identity as one who refuses to be hollowed. Your engagement is a step toward awakening others trapped in this silent war. Like, share, and subscribe to this channel if you value forbidden knowledge and the fight for true freedom. Together, through awareness and resistance, the stolen souls can find redemption, and the darkness that has controlled humanity for centuries can be shattered. This is not the end, but the beginning of a new chapter, a battle for the soul of mankind itself. Stay vigilant, stay unyielding, and remember, the greatest weapon of control is silence, and your voice is the spark that can ignite revolution. The hidden war continues, but now you are awake, and that changes everything.